Dr. Leon Schreiber, Minister of Home Affairs, with us.
Yeah.
Guys, hope your houses are in order. Home Affairs is here. Every single critical moment in your life, from beginning to end, relies on Home Affairs functioning. We are here to pursue digital transformation. That's our job. In short, you start seeing the enormous potential of this department to lead to better security for South Africa and to drive economic growth, but also to deliver dignity to South Africans.
And we're back.
Hey, we're back. And we've got Dr. Leon Schreiber, Minister of Home Affairs, with us.
Yeah.
Guys, hope your houses are in order. Home Affairs is here.
Hope your affairs are in order.
I mean, who still has their green book in the stable? I mean, I still have mine, Leon.
You
I must
what?
confess. I still have
A youngster with a green book.
Yeah, it's ancient. I had mine until like last year in November. Yeah.
Okay.
Because I never had one. I was born in 97, and by the time I qualified for an ID, I was already smart.
You were born smart.
I was born smart.
Not only born free, but born smart.
100%.
I love it.
Yeah, so we must clear that. Please don't embarrass the nation.
I need to go and get my smart card as soon as possible because there's a lot of good things about it, right?
Yeah, and it's going to get a lot easier to get it. That's probably the most important point. So, I mean, let me start by saying people have a very strong sentimental attachment to the Green ID book.
There's an RSA thing.
And so I thought, we should find a way for you to keep it as a memento. If you want to frame it and put it on your wall, I guess that could be okay. But at some point, we're going to have to stop using it because it is very vulnerable to fraud in the 21st century. It is the most defrauded ID document in Africa. Wow. And a lot of the stories you'll hear about identity theft and things related to that, if you go and dig, also when it comes to financial services, you'll find the Green ID book somewhere in the mix.
Sure.
So, without taking away people's attachment to it, we do need to address that particular issue because it has a large financial cost. And maybe I should give you a sense of how big the problem is. There's 18 million people like Luyolo who's still carrying, you're one of them, who still carry the Green ID book. And the problem
At least
is...
you're not alone.
Yes, you've got company.
They've got other millions and millions.
Yeah.
But if we do it right, you'll become a lonely man. So.
No, I need to join the
So
card.
I mean, the thing about it is, if you want to do away with it and no longer has it as legal form of identification, you have to give people an alternative. You had the alternative right from the start, but there are many people in South Africa who still don't have access. And that's one of the first things I found that's really problematic, is you can't say to people on the one hand, I'm going to take away your form of ID, but you're not going to have access to the more secure version.
Yeah.
Which is exactly why it hasn't been taken away.
Absolutely.
That is why it remains in circulation.
Yeah.
So we've got about 25 million people on the Smart ID. We've got about 18 million still on the Green Book. And we need to transition those 18 million onto the Smart ID. And then going forward, we should only be issuing new Green ID, Smart IDs. Now, the wild thing is, even as we complain about the problem, we're still contributing to the problem.
Sure.
Because Home Affairs is still manufacturing Green ID books. About a quarter of the Home Affairs offices, there are about 430 or so in the country, about a quarter of them are not modernized, so you can't get a Smart ID there. I was recently in Mphithi where I visited one of these non-modernized offices, which really is from a pre-modern era. We don't want to have offices like that anymore. It's piles of paperwork, and it results in a Green ID book being issued instead of a Smart ID. So for people of Mphithi and other places like that, you can't just, at a stroke of a pen, cancel the Green ID book. You need to give them the alternative. So that's one of the big things we're tackling within this year, and one of the things I'm hugely excited about because we're going to get there. We're going to be able to, by the end of the year, stop producing new Green IDs. That's the first step. Because we want to give everyone access to the Smart ID. So the way we're doing that is really quite revolutionary. I've used the example to say, if you put your money in a bank, put your savings there, and your bank said, thank you very much for trusting us with your savings, but we're going to basically make it as hard as possible for you to spend this money. You're going to have
Some
to
do.
travel. Some do. Yeah, maybe. But you're going to travel, 2 hours to get to this bank. Then you're going to stand in a queue. Then the system is offline, and then you might leave after a whole day without having gotten access to your own money.
Sure.
We would all be very upset with our banks if that happened.
Yeah.
And instead, what happens increasingly, of course, is online banking. You go on your smartphone, you make payments.
Absolutely.
You use all kinds of payment platforms, and you do it sometimes even in a supermarket or a local store.
Yeah.
So it is exactly that philosophical shift that we're trying to make at Home Affairs. Our currency is data.
Absolutely.
And in 2025,
Yeah.
data is actually more valuable than money in some cases.
Yeah.
But the trick is, just like the savings in your bank account don't belong to the bank, your data doesn't belong to Home Affairs. It's yours. It's your ID. It's your identity as a South African. It's your birth certificate, your ID. And our job, just like a bank, is to make sure that your data is secure, but that you're able to access it securely when you need it.
Absolutely.
And that is really the frame that we are moving towards. So it is a fundamentally different way of looking at government service. And what we then want to do is to decentralize access in a secure way using technology, exactly like banks have done. So we're starting in those locations where people can't currently get smart IDs. And we want to expand a very successful pilot project that has been in place for about a decade, where you can go to certain bank branches and get the document, the smart ID or a passport.
Yeah, that is so cool.
So it's only 30 bank branches currently, a decade
Wow.
later. It's very few. And
In the entire country?
In the entire country.
Wow.
And they almost all in urban areas. So that's really the problem. There is a model there that has just never been scaled up. And so I wanted to figure out why, if it's working and we get, trust me, I mean, people try to make online bookings through eHome Affairs, and the number one complaint is there aren't enough booking slots. But I say to them, it's because there aren't enough banks to make bookings at. So people literally sit at midnight, and 1 minute past midnight, the booking is full, right?
That was me.
There you go. And the reason for that is because you've got 30 branches in a country of 62 million people. So we looked at the problem, and really the problem is that inside this bank branch, I'm sure you would have seen it as well, there's actually a Home Affairs office replicated inside the bank branch. So you'll find the bank's computer, the clerk, the fingerprint scanner, the camera, all of it's there, and then it's all duplicated. Sort of in another part of the branch. Now, Home Affairs has 40% of the human resources it requires in terms of its previous model, which was all based on offices and this. So you're simply never going to have enough people to get to every bank branch in South Africa. What's the solution in 2025? We say, how do we integrate those IT platforms? How do we take the Home Affairs fingerprint scanner, camera, biometric platform and integrate it onto the bank?
Absolutely.
The irony is the banks already use Home Affairs to do the verification when you open a bank account.
Right.
So you put your fingerprint there, they check with us. So it's right there. It just requires us to make that adjustment in our thinking to say, let technology do the work. Make up for the shortfall that you've got with human resources, and technology does the work. So that's where we are now. We're continuing to engage with these different banks who we've worked with for many years to make that shift. Now, the beauty is, once we get it right, there's no reason that every bank branch can't offer it, because it becomes an online integrated platform. And all you would need in a bank branch is a camera and a fingerprint scanner. And Home Affairs still controls the pipeline. In other words, you still need your face or your fingerprints to get access to us, right? So we still control the security. It's actually much more secure to do it digitally than through having a person there. So that's really the model. And then, I think we can get into a lot of bank branches before the end of this year.
Awesome.
And then I think into the new year, maybe even before the end of 2025, we use exactly the same principle to get onto apps, because the bank system is already the same that they use for apps. So why can you go onto your banking app? You'll find Eskom there. You can buy electricity. You can buy data. You can buy all these things.
You can deal with your vehicle financing, your home loans, all
paying a
those
fine.
things. Yeah.
Why isn't there a Home Affairs logo there?
That's amazing.
That's where we're going. So when we say Home Affairs at home, that's what we mean.
Shut up. Say that again.
Come on. That's what it is.
Love
We
it.
want to bring Home Affairs to you instead of you going to stand in a queue to get to Home Affairs.
That's on my next Metso campaign. Home Affairs at home.
Speaking of modern day era and revolutionary things, I mean, many people say the GNU is a revolutionary thing. It's a modern day era thing. The things you're coming with now and talking about are new to many people. You're certainly new to myself as a South African. But let's dial it back a bit. It's been a year in the GNU. Before you became Minister of Home Affairs, you were an MP fighting corruption in public service administration. How has your life changed since then to now?
You should rather ask me what hasn't changed. It's you know what's funny is a year later you are so enmeshed in the work that you almost kind of don't even remember the shock that initially came with that transition. But I think it is such a great thing for our democracy that we went through that process, because we're going to go through it many more times. That's the point of democracy, is that you have changes in our context in the composition of a coalition government over time. Parties who perform well get rewarded. In our case, we want to become the biggest partner inside coalition governments. Parties who fail inside coalitions lose vote share. And that is how voters actually hold you accountable in a context like ours. So for me, it was a privilege to be part of that first cohort at national level to make that transition. I think from the DA's point of view, it's something that has never been done. And we've never had an arrangement from the DA's perspective where we're working in a government that has been ANC run for 30 years, and that you're now the second largest partner in this environment. So I mean, it's one for the history books. The fact that we achieved this, and the fact that we have this opportunity to make a contribution now. And guys, you see, this is what I mean. If I told you 18 months ago there would be a DA Minister of Home Affairs, everyone would laugh you out the room.
Absolutely.
It's never going to happen. They will never be in government.
Absolutely.
It's never going to happen. And that, I think, is really the amazing thing about what we should keep in mind. The long way we've already come, and the long way it means we can achieve. Because we've done the thing that people said we could never do.
Exactly.
And now we can do other things that people thought could never happen, like in the upcoming local elections. Why can't we be the biggest party in Johannesburg, in Tshwane, Ekurhuleni, all these big metros?
I'm really interested to hear about how this change has sort of gone or spilled over into your family life. I mean, it's obvious that you're a hard worker. You've obtained a PhD, which I think really pushes you to the brink sometimes of a lot of academia and also reading and researching and and then also at the same time being very involved in politics in South Africa. I mean, I read your book Coalitions one weekend in Montague. I sort of got it in a bookstore.
Good location.
Yeah, a bookstore there. And so it's obvious that you're a hard worker. How has that changed in your family life? I mean, how are you balancing that?
It takes a toll. It takes a toll. There's no beating around the bush on that. And I'm very fortunate to have a partner who is extremely invested in what we're doing, and she is an enormous source of strength to me, and I frankly wouldn't be able to do it without her. So, I mean, there's this old thing in politics about the hinterland, that you have to have that foundation behind you. You have to be more than just a politician in order to succeed in politics. 100%. And I think sometimes people think you must be politics, and that's the only way to succeed. The irony is, the more grounded you are, the more you have that support network, the more you have a hinterland, the better you're going to be in politics, in my view. But I think it's been fascinating to think through some of these things again, saying the DA had never done this before, and it's a pretty big responsibility to make it work now.
Yeah.
And also for the country to demonstrate that democracy can work, that things can actually get better in South Africa.
Yeah.
So I have reflected on that, and I think the work I did before, yes, in Parliament, on the civil service basically, but also before I entered politics, has been hugely important. I spent about 5 years as a researcher with Princeton University in the US. I think I went to 28 different developing countries
That's so cool.
in Africa and Asia to look at how do you build successful government institutions. And you do it in contexts like in Rwanda after the genocide. How do you actually build functional government there?
Absolutely.
And countries like Vietnam, all around the world, looking at this very particular field of institutional reform. And I can't tell you how valuable that was. So as I'm saying, the hinterland outside politics has been massively helpful to me, because the first thing that happens when you come into government, especially in a context like this, is you're completely overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Because every issue from the last 30 years lands on your desk, including 306,000 unprocessed visa applications, by the way.
Yeah.
Which you've done pretty well on.
Yeah,
Cracking
no,
down.
I mean,
Shout out.
thanks.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's quite a thing to walk into your new job
So-
and you say, there you go, right? And that's just one of the piles.
Maybe now.
It's just one of the piles. So what I've learned is you can be so easily overwhelmed and you can be so easily distracted. And I've been very focused on saying we will not spend our time in Home Affairs just putting out fires.
Got you.
There are many fires burning across the place, and that's what happens from 30 years of neglect. But as much as we will deal with those issues in the immediate, we will also become fire preventers. We will look at why is this happening. And such a great example came quite early on. And what I'm saying is, I don't think I would have been able to think like this if I didn't do that previous job.
Work.
Where you must know what is your priority, what are the things you're there to do, and then to have the discipline to stick to that. So I've been clear, we are here to pursue digital transformation. That's our job.
Perfect.
This is how voters must judge me.
Yeah.
Are they able to go to their local bank branch to get a smart ID? Are they eventually able to use their smartphone? Will they eventually have a digital ID where they don't? You no longer need the smart card because your life is digital.
Or the green book.
Or the green book for some amongst us. So
Just tap it on your phone.
he's feeling very guilty.
As we should.
Go after this conversation.
We want to hear that by the end of next week you've
I think
applied.
when we have Leon back, I need to have a smart card with
Yes.
me.
And the time after that, we'll have it on the smartphone.
the smartphone.
Then we'll get there.
E-wallet, yeah.
But so the point is, you have to be absolutely clear in what you're there to do, what are your critical priorities, and then to have the discipline to stay focused on those. And the best part from a leadership point of view or from a reform point of view is when you start realizing that your instinct, your priorities are the correct things to focus on. So one early example for me came when I think it was 2 months into the job. There was the story of Libyan nationals, I think about 95 of them, who had entered the country and they were found at some kind of apparent military training facility in Mpumalanga.
Because I'm not South Africa.
2 months into the job, this thing lands on my desk. And of course, we have to now deal with this issue. There are 95 people here who apparently shouldn't be in the country. We need to deport them. We need to have the legal process followed, etc. But I think politicians make a mistake if they end there. The real question is, why did this happen? How was it possible? And this was one of those early moments where I realized that we're onto something when we talk about digital transformation. Because the way they got in is because South Africa still uses a printed visa document that you paste into your passport and that you can fill in by hand. Now just imagine the possibilities for corruption or for abuse when an official somewhere can pick up a pen and
just write.
And so knowing that our goal is to digitalize the visa system, which we're now doing through the electronic travel authorization, which is a complete game changer for our country, then you start seeing the connections between these different fires, as I call them.
Gotcha.
So suddenly, people entering the country that shouldn't be entering the country, people who are unable to get a Smart ID because it's a non-modernized office. Those things, people can't get a visa because they want to come visit us for tourism purposes. Those things are all interrelated, and they have the same core problem, which is that we use manual, paper-based, outdated processes that are insecure and inefficient. And the solution to all of them is the same.
Sure.
And I think that's where what we're seeing in Home Affairs is an exponential effect of reform, because the principle is the same. Once you do it for visas, you do it for civics documents and Smart IDs, you can do it for digital ID, and suddenly people start seeing the results. So I think we're now moving into that phase where we've built the foundations, everything is in place, and now we just want to move before the end of the year to demonstrate a lot of these things in practice.
It's amazing.
So Leon, sorry, I want to take you a little bit back. You know, we hear Home Affairs, and I think Home Affairs is a critically important portfolio and department in our country. But for people out there who are asking themselves, outside of IDs, because most of the ordinary South African interacts with Home Affairs when, you know, you're trying to get an ID, etc. But it's much bigger than that, right? And so what exactly is Home Affairs, and what do you do?
What do you do?
Yeah.
What a super question. I think many people completely underestimate, I think that's what you're getting at, underestimate the foundational importance of this department for everything in our country. So firstly, Home Affairs manages the National Population Register, which is a database of every South African citizen. And that is the foundation of your identity. So in order to even get an ID, you need to be in the National Population Register, and the NPR must be properly managed.
What is the NPR?
National Population Register.
Okay, all right.
It's a database.
Okay.
That's really the foundation for all of it. And so that then leads to civic administration. So basically, if you want to get your ID, if you want to get a passport, register a birth, someone passes away in your family, get married, every single sort of critical moment in your life, from beginning to end, relies on Home Affairs functioning.
100%.
So it is the most intimately connected department, national government department, with the lives of South Africans. So that's the first part. But the second part is really about the economy. Because again, you actually can't have a financial sector that functions if you don't have the ability to verify people's identities. And so you take it one step further and you say, well, if we invest in upgrading the population register, we actually are going to ensure a much enhanced financial sector. And that's actually something we're working on right now. One of the things we found is that because of neglect, underinvestment, underpricing of Home Affairs services, when it comes to financial institutions, over 50% of verification requests sent by banks or insurers or other financial institutions fail. This leads to people not being able to open a bank account. Or it leads to people opening a bank account using a fraudulent ID where there was no verification done to check whether the fingerprints actually match. So it is a huge brake on the economy when you have this foundational system being down more than half of the time. The same goes for government departments. So SASSA grants, the fraud around SASSA grants, we can do something about it if the population register becomes reliable. If it is something where you can always have a quick response when you are SASSA or a bank or another kind of user who needs to verify identities. The same goes for the police, the justice system. Criminals and their fingerprints and their faces, we are really we can make a massive contribution to that. So I mean, these are some of the foundational things that a healthy Home Affairs can make so much better. And I want to give you an example. This issue of the unreliability of the verification service. It's been there for years. And we have gone in a very focused way. We have upgraded that service now. We've tested it with 3 of our users, including the Justice Cluster. And we found now the performance. In one example, 274,000 verifications done in one day at an average of 2 milliseconds each.
Wow.
Now imagine the difference between a system like that and one that in 50% of cases doesn't even give you a response. In other cases, it takes 24 hours.
Chalk and cheese.
So that's what we're building, and that's what we're rolling out now to users in the private and the public sector.
That's great.
And then I think the other part that's so important that people may not always think about is, of course, immigration and the role of the Home Affairs in national security, but also in unlocking the economic opportunities that flow from things like tourism. So when we talk about, and again, this is why I say the beauty of our reform priorities is that they address multiple problems at once. So when I tell you that we have a challenge of people using paper visas that you can fill in by hand, and that presents a security risk to the country, that same system also holds back tourism. Because a legitimate traveler from a country that requires a visa to visit us, huge countries like China and India, they sometimes wait weeks. They have the same experience that someone has when they have a bad experience with Home Affairs. There are 2 South African missions in China. That's 1.4 billion people that have to go to one of 2 locations in a country that big. Then they have to stand in a queue. They have to fill in a form. They have to leave their passport there. And then they have to wait and hope that they get the outcome, for which they must travel again to go and collect their passport. And they hope that all happens before their plane leaves. That is why we're only getting 37,000 tourists from a country that has 100 million outbound travelers a year. Now, just think what we can do for tourism if we create a secure, efficient visa process for a country like China or India or many others where we're underperforming. That is exactly what the Electronic Travel Authorization, the ETA, is going to do. We are going to roll it out by the end of September, and we're going to start for tourist visas for people who are arriving at airports, so OR Tambo and Cape Town.
That's crazy.
And then it allows you an opportunity to keep track of who comes in and out of the country.
You've nailed it. Absolutely right. Imagine a pile of files somewhere. And you find just the most incredible missed opportunities if you don't use technology. Because one of the ways in which people defraud the visa system, Karabo, is that you and I will apply for a visa, and then the requirement will be to have a certain amount of money in your bank account. So maybe you have it and I don't. So then you print your bank statement and you submit it, and then you make a copy and you give it to me. And I maybe just doctor it a little bit, and I submit the same bank statement. But you know what happens? If an official is looking at it, they can't pick up that this is the same bank statement.
You're right.
Now go with machine learning and go and submit those. It will immediately tell you, hang on, Karabo submitted this thing yesterday. Now Leon's here doing the same thing.
No, that's super cool.
I mean, these are the low-hanging fruits that can enable us. And as you say, people who overstay their visas, once you've got a digital system that actually knows who comes in and when they leave, suddenly you can detect, you can communicate with them, you can actually take enforcement measures in a much more systematic way. So in short, if you put all of that together, you start seeing the enormous potential of this department to lead to better security for South Africa and to drive economic growth, but also to deliver dignity to South Africans, to make it a dignified experience to interact with Home Affairs. And I think, Luyolo, this is actually the most important point for me. People are very cynical about South Africa. I think they, in many ways, have lost hope that things can ever get better. And I saw this, I experienced this when I got into this portfolio. They would say to me, why on earth would anyone want Home Affairs? It's a poison chalice. And then I said to them, but you've got a green ID book, but by the time we're done, you're going to have your ID on your smartphone. They said it's pie in the sky. It'll never happen.
It's a smart city.
Exactly. People are disillusioned. But actually, if Home Affairs, and as many people told me, it's hell affairs, it's the worst department in government, that is precisely why we should grab the opportunity. And that is precisely why we should fix it.
100%.
Because the message needs to be that if Home Affairs can get better, then surely anything can get better. You've just told me it's pie in the sky. You've told me it's a poison chalice. You've told me it's hell affairs. Fine. Now we will show you that we can make it better.
I love that.
That is why you must believe that other things can get better.
I love that.
And I think that is how we actually restore hope that South Africa can get better. But critically, guys, it's also how we raise the bar.
Yeah.
It should not be the case that if a minister says, I want to have your ID on your smartphone, that people say, nonsense.
Never going to happen. Yeah.
It says something about our expectations.
Absolutely.
That is not good for our democracy.
Yeah.
Because let me tell you, what I'm trying to do here, bits and pieces of it has been done all around the world.
Yeah.
It's possible.
Absolutely.
The technology is there. You do it every day when you interact with your online banking.
Yeah.
What we want to do, and where I think we have an opportunity to actually leapfrog, is we want to put this all together and become the most comprehensive, world-class online system for everything from immigration to civics. But the point is, none of this should sound unrealistic.
Absolutely.
And I think that's for me a really big concern in terms of the health of our democracy, is that we don't say to politicians, okay, you've said you're going to eliminate the green ID book, and now we're going to hold you to that. Instead, we say, it'll never happen.
But to be
it's
fair,
not healthy.
To be fair also, though, many South Africans, the reason why Home Affairs is seen as Hell Affairs is because for the last 30 years, South Africans' experience with government and with Home Affairs officers has been terrible.
System offline.
All the time. And even the personnel that work at Home Affairs offices are worse than Shoprite cashiers. They're never here for anything. And I'm going to give you an example, right? So as you know, I'm from Welkom, Jerusalem Park in the hood. My mom still lives there. That's where I go home. One of my neighbors, Memasipo, has a child that he lives with who was a child of a relative. Abongila matriculated just last year. But Abongile didn't have an ID until last year. Abongile's parents are not alive.
Yeah.
None of them are, right? And the only source of identity that exists for Abongile is Memasipo, who's in Welkom, the Free State, and other people who are in the Eastern Cape.
Sure.
So when Memasipo tried to go to Home Affairs to say, can I get Abongile an ID? The Home Affairs people told her, you must go to the Eastern Cape. Memasipo was like, I can't go to the Eastern Cape. Her parents are dead. And the one official actually said, go dig up the grave. And it is the most heartbreaking thing ever. I mean, little to say. We had to scramble and do whatever it is that we had to do. This is before you became minister, and we fought within that portfolio to try and get in. Eventually, Abongile had to get an ID. But Abongile lives in the same street as a Karabo Khakhau, who's a member of parliament.
Sure.
That is not the reality of most South Africans across here. And so it must be important for you as the minister and your department to also be able to reinstill the confidence that has been lost in Home Affairs so that we don't have an Abongile case. It should be easy to go into Home Affairs and not have to dial Karabo in Parliament and
100%.
say, can you call director whoever to help me with this thing?
Look, let me say I accept the premise. Don't get me wrong. I accept the premise of where Home Affairs was when we took over and where in many cases it still is. So I'm not disputing it. I'm accepting the premise. But I'm saying that precisely because those are the experiences that people have had, it has the most impact if the next Abongile doesn't have that experience.
100%.
And that, I think, is what motivates us. And, there are a couple of things I want to say about this powerful example. The first one is the whole idea of sort of having to travel to just get a service is already going to be better by the end of this year, just by virtue of expanding that cooperation with the bank. So you'll have more locations.
Excellent.
The second thing is we actually have a silent crisis of undocumented South Africans.
Yes.
Now, this is where I have to also make the point and be fair and be honest. What you've described in terms of how that official treated the family is completely unacceptable. Completely unacceptable.
100%.
And let me be clear, we have dismissed more officials in the last 12 months, I think, than in many years before that. I think it was 33 at last count. And we've prosecuted, I think, about 8 of them. We've gone to prison for between 4 and 12 years for a range of offences. So absolutely the accountability side of the equation is non-negotiable. But at the same time, there are many South Africans who work at Home Affairs who try against terrible
Yes.
odds
They do.
to render a quality service. And for a person like that, it is my responsibility to create a better working environment.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Because, you know, you are actually the person who is sitting behind a desk, someone who's traveled 5 hours to get there, who stood in the rain,
Yeah.
comes to your desk, and then you're the person who tells them the system is offline. That is not something a normal person enjoys.
It's tough.
And I mean, it puts you in an untenable position. So part of the upgrades that we're talking about, including on issues of system offline, and I mean, I've been very honest about how CETA, the State Information Technology Agency, has been a huge break
It
on us.
has.
And I have to give a shout out. I assume you'll have my friend Solly Malatsi on as well. Boy, has he, you know, implemented a fundamental
He has.
reform by by simply creating a logical framework where if something is not working through a CETA setup, that we can fix it ourselves.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
so that has been huge, and it is one of the things that we can now explore to deal with things like the system offline challenge that our officials themselves are the most vociferous about, because
Yeah.
you can just imagine
Yeah.
what that
And
is
just
like.
on that, Leon,
Yeah.
can you just explain that for just us maybe who might not understand that victory of the CETA? What exactly does it mean?
Yeah. So basically, CETA is a monopoly structure in government that is supposed to manage the procurement of IT services, and it doesn't work. It is not able to even submit financial statements to be audited. It just doesn't function. And over the years, Home Affairs has tried many times to work with CETA to upgrade and fix problems, but the evidence is there. Go to Home Affairs and the system's offline. It hasn't worked. So we can start there. And basically, you've, in a way, that system trapped government departments in saying that, well, you've got this huge problem of system offline. Everyone's going to blame you, but you aren't empowered to do anything about it because only the monopoly is able to do anything about IT services.
And it must be clear, this is not Nkabane's CETA. It's not SETA.
It's another one.
It's another one.
Yes.
So it's SITA.
That's the one.
Yes, they're all failing, but
Yeah, they all have fancy acronyms.
they're both failing. But yeah.
You get confused between it all.
Yes.
So what the minister has effectively done is to recognize this problem and to say that if it's not working, then you must fix it yourself. And I think it's such a common sense thing. Every person out there who has been frustrated by this problem should have some hope. But here's the other part. Now it's on us. I've also said it to colleagues in Home Affairs. So now there's no excuse.
Sure.
Now we have a mechanism. We must now use it.
Absolutely.
And we must now make sure that we actually improve that experience. So just to get back to the fundamental point. So the real silent crisis that we need to get to as a country is undocumented South Africans. And we can get there through all of the things we've discussed, making Home Affairs' own offices more reliable, giving you access to services in more locations and through your technology eventually. And what hopefully will happen over time is that the burden on Home Affairs officials will be less because routine things will be taken care of through technology and through other channels, right?
Sure.
So basically, you currently, and I haven't even mentioned home deliveries. We're going to introduce the ability for you to have your ID delivered to your house.
Hello.
Why must you go?
With the what is that thing? A PIN code? What is that other thing?
OTP.
OTP. Yes.
We're more advanced than OTPs. That's old stuff. That's old stuff.
60.
We're at the cutting edge. So
There's levels to this thing.
I'm telling you.
I don't like OTPs. They're outdated. So, you know, imagine now if suddenly a routine transaction like picking up an ID, you no longer have to go and queue.
Awesome.
People who want to apply for a new passport, for example, can renew it through their banking app. Suddenly you're taking pressure off Home Affairs. You're taking people out of the queues. And let me tell you who remains. It's Abongile.
Sure.
Because they are the people who need help for problems that are complex, that are not routine. It's not, I have an ID, I lost it, I need a new one. That's routine. But someone who's lost their parents and who is unable to prove their identity or is struggling to do so requires focused attention from Home Affairs and probably from other departments as well. So this is my real dream at the end of all this, is to get everyone who has a routine case to actually mostly take care of themselves.
Naturally.
Think about SARS. Think about how the tax system works. 90% of people go through auto assessments online. They take care of themselves. But I can tell you, the remaining 10%, those are the complex cases.
All hands on deck.
And we want to use the same model. And then we have great examples like India, a country also of around 1.4 billion people, who actually within 2 years documented the entire population. And they did it. Crazy. They had these little suitcases with cameras and fingerprint scanners, and they went into communities. And that's where I want Home Affairs to end up. So we can go to that community in the Eastern Cape that you mentioned, so that we can go there and say, all right, Home Affairs is now here, and we want to find all the children here that are undocumented. You sit with the community, and I would love to get to the... In other words, once we get to this point, we've succeeded in many other things because now we've got capacity. So I would love to get to this point and start exploring things that have worked in other parts of Africa, for example. You bring a community together and you say, this child is undocumented. Who's this boy's mother?
There we go.
This is, okay, maybe the mother's away. Where's their sister? Okay, and you start putting together a genealogy and a family tree. And you bring that dignity of a state that actually recognizes you. That says your family matters.
Your identity
you're no
matters.
longer invisible. We are going to bring that to you. So that is all part of Home Affairs at Home, even for the most disadvantaged, most rural communities who at the moment are just completely left behind because we are consumed by routine transactions.
And you know what you're saying is so cool to me, because if you are able to get that level of integration, then it means even at birth, hospitals are able to sort it out, because currently there's also another problem where people get born in hospitals and they walk out without verification because even though you were born in South Africa, maybe your mother or your father, it's mostly the problem when your mother is a foreign international, mostly Lesotho, for example, in the Free State. My experience is that your mother is from Lesotho, but the father is here. And then somehow in the system there isn't a coordination of your identification. And then if your dad passes and your mother is still in Lesotho, you're undocumented. So what you're doing is super cool.
And I think it's also quite important because, and I'm just getting chills here because, we assisted in the WCED admissions process this year, and what we often find is that a lot of the kids don't have birth certificates. And you have to upload their document so that the WCED can actually identify the person or the learner in this case, and actually see, are they registered in the country. So if you are already dealing with that on such a low scale level in communities that don't have access to these things, you probably are going to make it so much easier for Sawiwe in her department, who has to deal with these admissions on a provincial and national level in this case, where learners actually have an identity
to school,
and they're not just a number on the system. They have a name, they have a surname, they've got a father, they've got a mother, and you can recognize that dignity within that learner.
It's all about dignity, and that's the opportunity we've got. But again, the key is to go to the source of the problem. That's where I think, as I say, if we can get to that stage where we've got the capacity to do this in a focused way, the knock-on effects is what's experienced by the education sector, for example, because the source wasn't addressed. And to your point, now to be fair, there has been progress towards having birth registration functionality in more hospitals, but again, we're looking at ways that technology can make it more efficient, make it easier, and get the confirmation that we need. It is a major problem. I do think even if we get all of the tech right, this is one of those areas where we're going to have to go into communities to ultimately find all those South Africans who are undocumented. And I just want to say this, Donovan, it's a critical point for this discussion. When people say we must get rid of everyone who's undocumented, you will get rid of millions of South Africans
who are legitimately
this
South
is
African.
critical. So the state needs to first do its job to ensure that everyone who is entitled as a South African to identity is documented. And then we will know what the population is of people who legitimately are undocumented and shouldn't be in the country. But this is a point that often gets lost in the debate.
100%.
And we cannot be a country that wants to chase away millions of South African children, because that's where you'd end up with this kind of blanket
Leon,
approach.
that is such an important point, because we have some really useless parties running around saying undocumented. And I think this is such an important point because we actually don't know that there's a lot of South Africans that are undocumented. And I think people are falling into these traps.
Sensationalism,
where, undocumented, you're not South African. But we're hearing now that actually in some instances that is not the case. Those are South Africans.
It's absolutely right, Luyolo. And that's why we have a responsibility to be honest about the scale of the problem we have. And this isn't a problem that started yesterday or a year ago. It's been decades in the making. And it is time that we work in a focused way to resolve it. But I can tell you now, sloganeering is going to get you nowhere. Populism is going to make the problem 10 times worse because South African citizens will be swept up in anything that is based on this. And ultimately, the solution is exactly what we're talking about. Smart reforms that use technology to make up where we don't have capacity, and then going in a concerted manner with the goal of documenting South African citizens who are entitled to that dignity. It is a disgrace. It is a disgrace that you can be in South Africa with a family who are South African and somehow the state isn't able to recognize or enable you. It is an infringement on your dignity. And yes, it's a huge problem. But I believe we are on track. And we must do it. This is the thing about reform. It's not cheap. It's not easy. You have to do it systematically. We can't do this at the scale required today because we're consumed by people coming to collect an ID. But once we're able to deal with that problem, we move to the next phase. And eventually, as I say, this would be a marker of enormous success for us.
Leon, for a second term.
If you start seeing, well, hopefully not necessary. We are working with urgency, I can assure you.
I know Luyolo wants to go to governing better, but I wanted to come back to Karabo's point because I think it's quite fascinating for me. My daughter was born on a Tuesday at a Mediclinic hospital. My wife had a C-section, so she stayed in the hospital for a few days. On the Thursday, we were notified that Home Affairs will be at the hospital on this floor. You can go and register the birth. And then the next Thursday, you can come back and actually collect the birth certificate. So I never had to go into a branch to do any of that.
In the Western Cape.
In the Western Cape. Why are we not able to do that at public hospitals, or are we able to do that? And what's some of the work that you are doing to make sure that happens?
No, it is increasingly at public hospitals as well. So I just want to be clear. There's the distinction. There's no distinction there. And it's mostly targeted at the high volume facilities. You'll find some rural hospitals where there's a low number of births. So just getting around to them, it doesn't happen as often. Again, we go back to the capacity constraint. So yes, I mean, we are moving in that direction. We can do more about it, but it's all part of this process. And again, I'm just look how personal the story is you just told. And I want to say to you, it's rare that you'll find another government department where such personal events in your life are part of the mandate of that department. And so that just every time I hear a story like that, that drives me to say we can do better.
Absolutely.
Because this is actually what a caring government should be about, to make sure everyone has an experience like that.
Let's quickly talk about border management. So we've had a chat about documentation, but you've been doing pretty awesome work as far as the eye in the sky of the border. Tell us about that.
Just any kid's dream.
He's Leon flying drones at night.
It is just fantastic. I want to start by really commending the Border Management Authority's leadership. They have done an extraordinary job in a short period because they're 2 years old now. So it took many years to create the BMA, and the basic logic behind it was that previously everything at the border was completely scattered. So if you had to cross a border, for example, you'll find Home Affairs, Agriculture, Health, Environment, Police, all had some kind of role in this process. And you can just imagine, the fragmentation, no clear coordination. It was a big problem. So this was a very good reform to make the legal change to create the BMA. But that's quite a different thing from actually setting it up and making sure that it works on the ground. So that's the process we're in, and where I think we've made massive progress. So I have absolutely no doubt that because of the focused way in which we've gotten the BMA off the ground, that the way in which South Africa's borders are managed today is already better than it was before. That does not mean it's anywhere close to where we want to end up, but it is already better. We've got
better than a fence.
Well, I mean, better than having 5 or 6 different government departments all fighting and you know, opportunities for bribery and all that stuff.
Sure.
We've got clear command and control now, and that has already been making a difference. The other thing that's making a difference is technology. And I mean, the BMA actually in a very short time has become a leader in digital transformation of law enforcement. It is actually a third branch of law enforcement.
Sure.
It's the police, it is the Defence Force, and it is the Border Management Authority. So they have leapfrogged immediately. We've got a number of highly advanced drones that we're already using at some of the more sort of busy border posts. We've got body cameras that have been deployed to be able to observe what officials are doing, so that you can detect where there's money changing hands or any of these issues. And all of that is integrated into a database that is actually admissible in court. So if we catch you on that body camera taking
so
200 Rand,
cool.
it's a secure chain of custody. It can go directly into court, so that we know you'll get prosecuted if we catch you.
Good.
Those things are really important for law enforcement across the board, and the BMA has really started to embrace that way of working. But we are going much further. I have to say we've got a critical obstacle in terms of the resourcing and capacity of the BMA. It is short by thousands of officials. So the sad thing is we have the technology through these drones, night vision, AI technology that can actually, if a cow crosses the border at night, it can tell you it's a cow, it's not a person. It can actually, you know, observe.
Got me a costume or
It's like
something.
movie stuff.
It can see, you know, if someone's hiding in the back of a car, it can tell you.
Wakanda forever. I love it.
Scan brain drone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The problem is whether it's a cow or a person. we actually
No, you
we
didn't.
don't have the capacity to actually then respond as much as we should, because we have a shortage of people. So the surveillance is better, but the reaction is still where we have a challenge. So I would say that one of the best investments we can make as a country is in adequately resourcing the Border Management Authority. We still have work to do in transferring SAP's functions to the BMA. That is not a process that's complete, which will hopefully assist us in getting more resources on the ground. But if we can get that done, then really that sets us up for some of the other things we're doing. We are redeveloping the 6 busiest land border posts in South Africa, the ports of entry. So your Beitbridge, Lebombo, Kopfontein, all these big busy ones. And this is a massive infrastructure catalyst for South Africa. It's a public-private partnership. The process is moving really well. The Minister of Finance is backing us, and we're working very well with a number of different stakeholders, Public Works and others, to make sure that we get this project off the ground. This is going to be a catalytic project because it will enable us to actually get the right expertise to physically rebuild those 6 border posts. And this is really important because they talk about a sanitary environment in the border space, so that you don't have like random people moving around where you can't actually see what's going on and control it properly. Unfortunately, the infrastructure we currently have is very old, and it's hard to have that space. So these new border posts will be designed around this principle. They will be designed around the latest technology. And I want to say to you, the work we're doing, and again, you see the connections between things, and I think it's so critical. Reform, if you reform, there must be a golden thread that links these seemingly different things together.
Different fires.
Exactly. And so one of the links is when we roll out the ETA to digitalize the visa process, you are able to actually then link that with the arrival side. So essentially what it is, and let me take you through the process because I can actually show you something cool. So the ETA is a process where a traveler would go online and they would go to a website, they would take a photo of their passport, they would take a selfie, and then they would upload that information. The AI will work to check whether it's a real passport. It's got all the parameters to know if this is an Indian passport, this is what it should look like. So it can check that and verify that for us. it then matches the face of the photo in your passport with the selfie you took. So in other words, is this your passport?
Yeah.
And we've got that capability to check that then.
Is it still safe if I do Botox still?
These things are very advanced. It's more advanced than your phone. So if you can unlock your phone, you'll be fine with the ETA.
Just checking.
You can test it with the phone. So once you've done that, and then basically, the security checks and the database checks and everything happens in the background, and you get this visa outcome securely processed, and it can be seconds.
Okay.
We're actually going to slow it down a bit for cybersecurity reasons, but it can be available in seconds. And check what happens then. Is that you simply remember what I told you about handwritten documents and paper visas and whatever. So you go to the wallet app on your phone.
Got you.
So here you can see I've got my bank card and my flight tickets and whatever, and right in the middle is my visa.
Oh wow, that is so
This is a real one.
Wow.
Like
in the
you can,
wallet.
with a QR code and alles.
So the whole thing I said about piece of paper in a passport, etc. This is where it's going.
Wow.
So now you arrive.
So cool.
You arrive at the Cape Town International or OR Tambo, or eventually at Beitbridge, and you have this ETA as a requirement to enter the country.
It's amazing.
Once you have gotten this, you show up at the border post and you look into a camera. And what then happens is that camera verifies that the face who has arrived is the same face from the passport and from the selfie. And that is the biometric basis upon which we decide whether you can come in or out or not into
Guys,
the
that
country.
Oh,
deserves-
I'm like, Leon Schreiber.
So
amazing.
So
Amazing,
imagine 6 redeveloped border posts.
I'm voting DA again,
built
you
on
guys.
this principle, where you look into that camera.
It's amazing.
And I just say it's very simple. You can't bribe a computer.
Sure.
You cannot bribe the computer.
Yes.
That camera says yes or no.
Yeah.
And what happens then is if it says no, you get pulled out of line and the BMA says, what's going on here? And just imagine the impact of having not only airports, but land border posts, modernized, redeveloped, using this kind of technology to do security, but also, again, as I say, for trade and economic growth. I mean, you can, and all of this will be built around the one-stop border post concept. So this bill is in Parliament now. We need to get it passed because it will then enable us to also integrate with the neighboring country. So suddenly, you don't have to stop twice. You can do customs, you can do immigration
All at
in one go.
Sure.
And we've got, I mean, the opportunities are enormous for us to drive both the economy and security through these reforms.
That's amazing.
This is so exciting. Like you don't even have a wale in the middle of your. It just flows, and you're.
That's the goal.
You live and breathe it.
Oh, yeah.
You live and breathe it.
It should all flow.
It is.
So Leon, we and Donovan, we're saying that we are fighting to rescue.
Yeah.
And we said this in 2024 at the election that the DA wants to rescue South Africa. I mean, a year in, I think so much has happened. And just what you've just shared with us now about this fight that we are in to rescue this country, it's an important one.
It absolutely is. It is the fight. It is the fight of our lives. This is our mission in this moment in history as South Africans. This is our mission. And I think Home Affairs is a great case study in that, because I think we all agree that there was a lot to be rescued from, things that were wrong. And we are trying to very diligently work to do the rescuing. And I think that, that's why I go back to my earlier point about why this portfolio is so important. Because it's one where every single person would have agreed it needs rescuing. It's not really a debate about it. We've all been in that situation. And I think through the amazing work that our officials are doing, the way they've bought into, the vision, the way that I'm able to work with my deputy minister, Njabulo Nzuza. I mean, this is the GNU in action, guys. This is what we're doing at Home Affairs is the GNU in action. We're doing it for South Africa. We all agree on the massive potential that we can unlock for our country. And I think it actually doesn't really matter what your political background may have been in the past or what you think about politics in general. We must, as South Africans, surely be able to agree that getting these things to happen that we've discussed here today is in the interest of our country. And I think it's been a really inspiring process for me, as much as it's been difficult at many junctures and will continue to be difficult, to actually know that it is possible.
Sure.
Yeah.
We do have people from across the political spectrum, from people who have been in Home Affairs for many years, people who have now stood up to help, coming together as South Africans and really pursuing this one goal.
Yeah.
And I will say it's, judge us on how far we get.
Yeah.
We still have a lot of work to do. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I do think a year into this, the changes that are already happening on the ground
is massive.
is already making South Africa a better place, and is moving it closer to a state where it doesn't have to be rescued.
Yeah.
We should have a country where we feel secure about the future.
On autopilot. Let's just operate.
Should work. It should just work.
And I think if South Africans are listening to this, this is the reason why we don't want to leave the GNU, or why we should not leave the GNU. Because there are departments that the DA are currently running that is working, that are providing dignity to everyday South Africans. And if you want to get upset or emotional about the complexities of a coalition and just leave for the sake of all of these, then no. Then actually we should be working way more harder to stay in the GNU so that we can rescue South Africa and all the other departments that we actually don't even have at the moment. I mean, can you imagine the possibility of us getting other departments that are also not working, that's not providing dignity?
I mean, higher education is one of them that needs to be rescued.
And ultimately become the biggest partner.
Yes.
We'll always be a partner. We want to work with people. And as I say, in Home Affairs, we're living it. But we want to also be able to make a bigger contribution going forward. But I think the point you raise is really important, Donovan, because in a way we should really not be surprised. This has never been done. I just keep going back to that.
Yeah, it's true.
And from a DA perspective, we have never been in a situation where we take over a government after 30 years of ANC domination, where we have to work with the ANC as the second largest partner. It's never been done. And I think we just have to understand that's the context.
Absolutely.
Once hard.
And South Africa more broadly, not only for the DA. We've never had a government like this. The GNU that was there in the 90s was a different beast because the ANC had a majority. This time, we're all minority parties of different scales. And we have to understand that if you do something so radically different, it's going to be hard. But you have to be up for the challenge because the country has called on us to do something. And I think that again, that is the approach that is at Home Affairs, that is our guiding light in all of this. We're doing it for our country. And I think that is the approach that we need to keep in mind. And that is not to say that it's not hard, that it's not complicated, that it's not immensely frustrating at times, but it is the reality of where we are. But we must also keep in mind that we're laying the foundation for the future here. Because it's not a one-off event. I'm putting my money on the table here. Maybe it should be digital money.
How much?
Bitcoin.
Exactly. I'll put some Bitcoin on the table. That in the local elections next year, that we're going to have the same complexity replicated at a scale we've never seen before at local level. So for all of us who are in this situation, we better adapt now because it's only going to become more common. We're not going to have more single-party governments in this country. We're going to have more coalition governments in this country. And so that is why this one is so critically important. 20 years from now, you might look back and say, oh, this was the first time we did. For them, it was so strange back then. It was this new thing. But we're so used to it now. What was wrong with them? They were fighting and all. But this is how change happens. It's the transition, and you have to be up for it, and you have to see it in the bigger context and have that perspective. And I think within that context, we are doing the best job we possibly can, and we are doing it with the country in mind. That's really the bottom line.
What would you say has been Team Home Affairs' proudest moment?
Good question.
So far? You can list 7 if you want.
You can, I promise you can.
I think what was really special is the work on the backlog, the visa backlog.
Well, that was incredible.
That was really cool.
Because we did use technology in some ways there to speed it up and to just basic things like digital signing and processes like that. So you don't have to print 40,000 pieces of paper. You can actually do it online. But what was really the key there was the team.
Yes.
And I called them our backlog bomb squad.
Love it.
Because this was the dedicated project team that was working only on clearing this backlog, which had been there for 10 years.
Sure.
Some applications were from before 2014.
Sure.
And people waiting, people's lives affected by this. Their spouse can't be with them because they can't get it. And just imagine the impact on also South Africans who may be married to someone from another country, or have a child who is in need of something from Home Affairs. So that was a very special achievement for us. I had set them the challenge early on to say we want no backlog by Christmas. That was our last year. And around December, Deputy Minister and I and the DG went back to congratulate them.
Yes,
I can't
that
remember
was
the
a
exact
very
number, but they were
special
like at
moment.
90%.
Yeah.
Wow.
And we had this big celebration, and I was wearing my Christmas hat.
You were so
and
happy.
I saw.
There were some dance moves there.
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
Some dance moves there as well.
and I think the reason why I would pick that moment, if you force me, I'd pick that moment over some of the tech things we've done, is because I think it shows that South African spirit.
Yes.
I think it shows. And that's why the bomb squad is such a great analogy. It's a bit like the Springboks.
Yes.
You come in at the end and you say, this has been dragging on for too long. Let's finish this thing now. And I think that is exactly the mindset we saw there. And it made me so proud as a South African. Again, this is we're putting the country first here, and to be able to see that we can do this. And I think maybe, Karabo, some of the other reforms that have followed since then, and some of the big things we're still doing, are actually possible because that gave people a sense of belief that it can be done. And it also, I think, demonstrated to Home Affairs officials themselves who have felt very demotivated for a long time, who've always been on the receiving end of technology problems and other failures, to see that their work matters. And I was very clear in telling them, what you do here is not just a tick box exercise. This is about the economy, because if we can't get the skills we need in certain instances, and if we can't get, people to come and help us build the country where we need it, then we're not going to create jobs.
Absolutely.
But it's also about dignity. It's about people's lives, people's families being united. And I think that gave people such a sense of purpose. And it's what drives me every day. It's purpose. We have a purpose here in Home Affairs. And I think I would pick that moment.
That is so beautiful.
Leon, last question from us. How can people, find out more about your work? Where can they follow you?
So they can follow me on X, on Facebook, on Instagram, and on TikTok. I love the work we're doing on TikTok.
It's really cool.
That I think is a really important platform, and I would encourage especially young people to add a little follow there for you to see what's happening at your Home Affairs. Ultimately, this is about all of your lives. And so we try really hard to bring people along as well.
That's awesome.
We communicate when we plan things, and then we communicate when we execute them, to show the public that we're actually diligent about following up on things that we know are important to you. So I love interacting with people on these places, and I think we should do more of it as government, so that people actually know what happens.
Yes.
And they don't have to be sort of guessing where things are going. I'll give you a great example. One of the other things that would be on my list is the issue of smart IDs that we spoke about earlier. One of the other reasons why we have still been stuck with people like my friend here with this green ID book.
We're never going to forget it.
Okay, the 18 million of us, let's go get our smart cards, please.
Public service announcement.
You don't want the minister on your
Service
case.
announcement.
So one of the other reasons really is because naturalized South Africans, these are South African citizens who may have been born abroad or were subsequently naturalized, as well as permanent residents who are both entitled to getting South African ID documents. They were actually prevented from getting the smart ID. So again, you see the logic of sort of saying, we want to do away with the green ID book because it presents a risk to you, but at the same time, we're forcing some people to get it. That doesn't make sense. And so we were able to really make the IT fixes. It was really a technological problem. And now 1.4 million people are for the first time able to get those smart IDs. And it was amazing to see how much it means to people.
That's really
because, this was a group of South African citizens, equal citizens under the Constitution and in every way. But they were sort of prohibited from getting the smart ID. They were forced to getting and it made them feel unequal. It made them feel like it was an infringement on their dignity.
Sure.
And so that would be another case where you could see what it meant to people, and we were able to communicate with them and to be able to say, this is how it works. We're starting with visa-exempt countries. If you were born in a visa-exempt country and you already have a green ID book, you're the first phase. And we've got thousands of people now, I get those reports, who have smart IDs. I mean, 3 months ago, it was impossible.
Okay.
That's amazing.
So what's the next biggest milestone?
More bank branches.
There we go.
That's next, and then the ETA after that.
All right.
Well, Leon, I just want to say, I'm sure Donovan and Karabo can agree with me. Just sitting next to you, the energy, the passion, we can feel it. I think, for those of people who will watch, like you can feel it. Like it's crazy.
You never thought someone would love Home Affairs so much, eh?
I'm telling you, it's
Home Affairs.
I need a T-shirt or something.
it's incredible, but also the work that you've managed to do in just a year is it's mind blowing what can be done when you are committed and when you are motivated to do it. So it's really been such an honor to have you as a guest.
We endorse this message.
And it's endorsed.
Super to be with you guys.
Awesome.
And I think, just shows the quality of the people that we have in South Africa to be able to have these kind of conversations. The people who are going to be watching at home interested. We have got so much to work for. It's absolutely worth it, people. We shouldn't lose hope. We should just put our shoulder to the wheel and get it done. And thank you guys for the opportunity to chat.
Thank you. And
Dr. Leon Schreiber, everybody.
Yeah.